What is up, Still Studyings? Welcome to episode 194 of the study session. And you're noticing something a bit different here today. There is a video component of today's session. This isn't going to happen every week, being that I record mostly every day during the week, but it's something that's going to be a new feature of the site heading into 2022. And we're kicking it off here on this December 30th, the second to last day in 2021, and what has been not that great of a year for your Pittsburgh Steelers. And we have Ben Roethlisberger's final game coming up here on Monday night against the Cleveland Browns at Heinz Field. We're going to talk all about those things related to Roethlisberger's final game. But I want to start, as I always do, by saying thank you for being a supporter of the Still Study, for listening to the study sessions, the podcast, for reading my work and sharing with your family and friends. It truly does mean the world to me. You can get in touch with me one of three ways. You can comment directly on the articles. At the bottom of each article, there's the comment section. You can drop me a line via email at thestillstudy@gmail.com. And also give me a follow on Twitter at stillstudy. Would love to connect with you. Every Saturday, I do the Steelers Saturday mailbag, in which I get your question, comment, and feedback on the show. You basically drive the content for that day. So I would love for you to be a part of that. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the podcast that I do with Jim Wexell over on his site, the Still City Insider. Our podcast is called the Still City Insider Podcast. We record every Tuesday morning at the dark hour of 5 a.m. We post between 6 and 6:30 a.m. There's an audio and also a YouTube component of the podcast, so be sure to check that out. Jim is one of the GOATs of covering the Pittsburgh Steelers, having covered the team since 1995, super insightful, super knowledgeable, and you want to check that out. It is linked in the show notes. So we're going to talk about Ben Roethlisberger's final game. I know I already hit on it once earlier this week, but it's a monumental occurrence, this being the final time that he's going to play at Heinz Field, barring some type of miracle where the Steelers get into the postseason as AFC North champions. That doesn't seem likely. So by all counts and purposes, this is more than likely going to be it. But before we get to that, a few housekeeping notes here. Arthur Maulet, the nickel corner, slot corner, who has stepped up this year and has not filled the shoes of Mike Hilton the way that maybe we anticipated. He is on the COVID list, so it's uncertain as to whether or not he will be ready and available to go on Monday night. We could see Trey Norwood get the opportunity at that slot corner position, but wanted to put it out there that right now Maulet is on the COVID list. Now, they did change the protocols. The NFL changed the protocols for the number of days that players had to isolate based on vaccination status and all those pieces. So there is a chance that we could see Maulet back out there on Monday night, but we'll have to pay attention to that. Shouldn't be that big of a factor, being that Maulet has not been out of this world with his play, but wanted to share that with everyone. I spoke about Najee Harris yesterday at length on the study session, just talking about that he is a quality back and that his performance can't be undermined this year. He was named by NFL.com to the all-rookie team, so kudos to Najee Harris for that achievement. There's big things in store for Najee, especially in year two. If the Steelers are able to improve this offensive line, which I believe they will make it a priority. So we'll have to pay attention to that and see what that looks like in 2022. And speaking of 2022, Ian Rappaport reported today that the Steelers are going to pursue a veteran quarterback this year in free agency after Ben leaves. We heard that earlier this season from Jay Glazer, so this is not shocking or surprising. But what we need to ask ourselves is, what type of veteran QB are we talking? Are we talking an upper echelon elite quarterback by the name of Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson? I highly doubt it, that the Steelers would expend the type of capital that it would take to lure one of those players to the organization. And if you also look at the age and durability concerns and just general desire, especially when talking about Aaron Rodgers, I just can't see either of those moves being made. Now, if you're looking at a lower tier player, or mid-tier quarterback, possibly they can go that route. But more than likely what they're going to do is give the keys to Mason Rudolph, for 1 year and see what happens. I know a lot of Steelers fans don't agree with that. They don't want to see that happen, but he has paid his dues, and more than likely he'll be handed the keys to the kingdom for 1 year. In my opinion, I do believe they are going to draft a quarterback if there is one that they like in this year's upcoming NFL draft. Kenny Pickett's the story that everybody's been following and talking about, and what a narrative that would be if the University of Pittsburgh kid comes or doesn't come, stays in Pittsburgh and becomes the franchise quarterback of the Steelers organization. So a lot of coverage there that we're going to be hammering this offseason about quarterbacks in Pittsburgh for 2022. So you want to stay tuned and check that out. But the big news of the day here on this Thursday, December 30th, is that Ben Roethlisberger spoke to the media, and he was asked point blank whether or not this was going to be his final game Monday night. And I quote, and I wrote it down so I can have it here to read to you. Looking at the bigger picture, I would say all signs pointing that this could be it. So let that sink in for a moment, and I'll repeat it. Looking at the bigger picture, I would say all signs pointing that this could be it. It's confirmed, and the only opening sliver of hope, and he did mention this later on in this press conference, is if they do somehow win the North and get that home playoff game, then it wouldn't be his final home contest, but the chances of that happening are very slim. So this is indeed Roethlisberger's it's his final game in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. And what a spectacle, what a sight it's going to be on Monday night to see Roethlisberger out there going against the Cleveland Browns, a team that he has owned for the duration of his career, his 18-year career. And there's a lot riding on this game. We know that their playoff chances are very, very small. At this point, their best case scenario to get in is as a wild card team, but even that's going to take a small miracle. But there is, as if there was an incentive enough for this game, for the postseason opportunity, there's extra incentive now in knowing that this is Roethlisberger's final game at Heinz Field. I think you can expect to see this team rally around this being it for Roethlisberger. There's going to be a lot of enthusiasm and energy, and players are going to put it all on the line to send Big Ben out as a winner at Heinz Field in his final contest. Something else that's going to be interesting to pay attention to this week, Mike Tomlin was asked in his press conference of whether or not he would give Roethlisberger the keys to the offense in this game, being that it's his final home game. And he said, we're definitely open to that. So we'll have to see what this offense looks like if they go exclusively no huddle, or if they do go no huddle in the first half. That's going to be something interesting to pay attention to. And something else, with Adrian Clem departing early for Oregon, Chris Morgan now taking over as the offensive line coach. What does this offensive line look like now under a different leader, if at all? Does it look different at all, or does it look the same? So that's something that I want to really pay close attention to see if there's any improvement by having someone else change the scheme, or maybe we see some different personnel out there. We'll have to monitor the injuries to Trey Turner and Kendrick Green. But those are definitely two things that I'm most excited about seeing. You know that if you follow the site, I am a hater of Monday Night Football, but rest assured, this is one game that I will be super excited about, because again, this is it for Big Ben. This is the end of an era in Pittsburgh, at home at Heinz Field, to a player who's brought so much to the organization and to the city. And here's hoping that he could send this Steelers team out with a win at home over the Browns, get them to 8-7-1. And then next week against the Ravens, how fitting would it be that a win gets them into the postseason? So it hasn't been a great year. We know that 7-7-1, not a great record at all. You have to wonder what would have happened if Ben would have not tested positive for COVID and Mason Rudolph didn't start that Lions game, if that's an extra win, and we're having a different conversation about the team getting into the postseason. But you can't plan for those things. You can't account for those things. So the reality is right now, sending Ben out a winner on Monday night has to be the focus. And I said it a couple days ago. Here's to 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. I hope Big Ben lights it up and gives this Pittsburgh Steelers organization and fans something to be excited and proud about this season. And studyings, that is it. That is the end. That is the conclusion of episode 194 of the study session. My gratitude to you for joining me here today. I want to thank you for being a supporter of the Still Study. Please continue to share my work with your family and friends. Connect with me, drop a comment on the page, shoot me an email at thestillstudy@gmail.com, and also give me a follow on Twitter @stillstudy. Would love to connect with you. Also, please be sure to check out the podcast that I do with Jim Wexel over on his site, The Still City Insider. That podcast is the Still City Insider podcast. Would love for you to check that out. Jim is super insightful and knowledgeable about the Steelers, having covered them from 1995. You don't want to miss that. And as I always close out the show, remember that even at 7-7-1, life is beautiful in the black and gold. Peace, everyone. Make it a great day.